Oh right, what's going on everyone, and welcome to the series in which I introduce you to all of the most powerful competitive decks in the modern format. The goal here is not to give an exact deck list as those change constantly, but rather to give a brief overview of how the deck works so you can be prepared if you're new to the format. Today we're going to be looking at Broodscale Combo, also sometimes referred to as Bloodchief Combo. It is mono green, sometimes GRUUL, and the deck wins with, you're not going to believe it, but it's Modern Horizons cards. I know, it's pretty crazy. So the combo revolves around Basking Broodscale and Blade of the Bloodchief. So the Broodscale is a 2-mana 2/2. It's devoid, so it doesn't have a color even though it has green in its cost, and it has adapt 1 for 2, meaning you can put a +1/+1 counter on it if it doesn't have one for 2 mana. Then, whenever a counter is put on it, it will make an Eldrazi token, a spawn, and that can be sacrificed for mana. So by itself, it's a grizzly bear that for 2 mana can turn into a 3/3. That might not seem very good, and you're kinda right, it is a common, but it combos with Blade of the Bloodchief. It is a 1 mana equipment that equips for 1 and says whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature. Now there's some vampire text here, not relevant at all. So these two cards together go infinite. You activate the adapt or find another way to get a counter on it, whatever. It makes a spawn. You sacrifice the spawn for mana. You don't need to have a reason to do that. Just sacrifice it out of mana. That sacrifice will trigger the blade. It will put a counter on the Broodscale, which then triggers the Broodscale and makes a spawn. So sack a spawn, get a counter, get the counter, make a spawn, sack the spawn, get a counter, loop, loop, loop a billion times, massive creature, and unlimited mana, right? If you do that a million times, you have a 1,000,000 into 1,000,000 into a creature and a million mana. So if the opponent doesn't have a creature in play, you can just attack for the win right there. Then we have Glaring Fleshraker, a 3 mana 2/2 that says whenever you cast a colorless spell, make a spawn. That's fine, right? This is an Eldrazi deck. Both of your combo pieces are colorless, remember, devoid on the Broodscale, so you get more spawns, more of these tokens. Then, whenever a colorless creature dies, you deal 1 damage to each opponent. So now, with these 3 in play, when you loop, you don't need to attack because the Fleshraker will just drain the opponent out after 20 activations. So now, they can have a board full of creatures, doesn't matter, they're just dead. Another way to win instantly is with Walking Ballista. It costs double X and enters with X counter. So if you pay 4 for it, it's a 2/2. If you pay 8 for it, it's a 4/4. You can also pay 4 mana to add a counter. And you can remove a counter to deal 1 damage to anything. This is all very costly. It's a very expensive card. But of course, with your combo, you generate unlimited mana. If you have 1,000,000 mana, you can make it a 500,000, 500,000, then remove all the counters, wipe out everything. Or if you already had it in play, you could play this before you have the combo as like a 1/1. And then after you go infinite, you can use the 4 mana add a counter to just put infinite counters on it, win that way as well. So there's another instant death. Your combo, which goes infinite with counters to make an infinitely huge Broodscale and infinite mana, can then result in Fleshraker draining the opponent out, or Walking Ballista being infinitely big and absolutely obliterating everything in sight. You can also use the infinite mana on Emrakul. It costs 13 but costs 1 less for each card in your graveyard, and this deck has most of the major card types short of enchantments. It's a 13/13 flying trample protection from instants, which makes it difficult to remove. You need sorcery speed removal or enchantment based removal, and also when you cast it, you gain control of the opponent for a turn. They'll get an extra one, but taking a turn to just like use their own removal spells on their own creatures can be pretty devastating. So now you can combo for infinitely huge creatures, unlimited mana. You can drain with Fleshraker, you can drain with Walking Ballista, and worst case scenario, you can still play a 13/13 trampler and control your opponent for a turn, disrupt them, and open the way for your giant Broodscale, right? And something to be aware of is you don't necessarily have to go infinite to play Emrakul. Note that both Broodscale and Fleshraker are good at just generating spawns. Remember, the Fleshraker makes a spawn every colorless spell you play, and everything that we've seen so far is colorless, right? So you can ramp pretty well, and this continues with Writhing Chrysalis, which is played in the GRUUL builds. It's a 4 mana 2/3, which isn't great, but when you cast it, you get 2 Eldrazi spawns, so that's another way to ramp into an Emrakul just naturally. And then, whenever you sacrifice an Eldrazi, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So much like the Broodscale, this is just another thing that can go infinite. It's another big threat, right? Now your opponent needs 2 spot removal spells to deal with your 1,000,000 creature. So you can generate lots of mana for Emrakul, you can have an extra body, and while the deck wants to combo, the plan B of like Fleshraker plus Chrysalis, going wide with tokens and just draining people out, also totally fine, and ramping into an Emrakul, like all of this functions functions just fine. Normally when you think of combo decks, there's a lot of just dead cards, right? Just cards that are good, but you need them to make the combo work. But this, when it's not comboing, it still has this kind of Eldrazi rampy thing going on, which isn't bad at all. The mono green builds of this deck, however, can't play Chrysalis, it's red, so they opt for Devourer of Destiny instead. It's another big ramp payoff that exiles something when it enters, and you can give some extra filtering at the beginning of the game if it's in your opening hand. It's pretty good. It's also played in the other Eldrazi decks that aren't comboing because you can ramp into it pretty easily, and it's pretty great to have in your opener. So for consistency, the deck plays Ancient Stirrings, Malevolent Rumble, and Urza Saga. The first two are filterers. Stirring lets you look at the top 5 cards and pick a colorless card to put into your hand. Note, the green and red cards we've seen have Devoid, so they still count, and also lands as well. Rumble looks at the top 4 and it costs 2 instead of 1, but the important thing here is it makes a spawn token, so that's pretty good. And the Saga is a land that eventually will die and tutor up a 1-drop, so that can tutor up your Blade of the Bloodchief. And since the deck is playing Urza Saga, you might be familiar, a lot of decks that play this will also play a toolbox of, just a bunch of 1 mana utility artifacts, usually 1 copy each, so you have the option to tutor up silver bullet cards, things like Pithing Needle, Soul Guided Lantern, Vexing Bubble, stuff like this, where when your Urza Saga dies, if one of these will shut down your opponent's deck, you have those in the main board, and you can search them up with your 4 lands. Kozilek's Command is also played in these decks. It's just a X mana modal spell that can make a bunch of spawns, scry, draw, remove a creature maybe, and exile cards in a graveyard. But the main idea here is Broodscale combo. Play your Broodscale, play your Blade, go infinite in many ways. That's the deck. It's a 2-card infinite combo with just a lot of Eldrazi rampy stuff surrounding it. There are, of course, tons of variations from deck to deck, and there will likely continue to be developments as the metagame evolves and as new cards are released. So be sure to check out the description below, as I will leave links to metagame tracking websites so you can see the most up-to-date deck list, and I will try to separate mono green versus GRUUL decks, although they're like 90% the same, but there will be a lot of links there for different versions of this deck. But in the meantime, I hope this video was useful. If it was, please consider leaving a like, hitting the hype button, subscribing maybe, but regardless, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one.